only on this 50%. Skills and talent. So whether it is cricket, basically they're just looking at how to get the bowler better, making sure the batting lineup is in order and everything. 99% of the time in Sri Lanka, not abroad. The other elements, or the other 50% is neglected. If you talk about recovery, nutrition, strength and conditioning, which is just getting strong and fitter, and injury management. So Kusal is here to actually talk to you all, for parents, coaches, athletes, to understand the gaps that exist and how you can maximize performance. Because if you look at it, the biggest factor in this 50% is all about what we call availability. So what availability is about? Having your best team or your best players available for selection as much as possible. So if you just take a really, really good example, if you look at yesterday's cricket game, we are playing without three of our main bowlers. We conceded 420 runs against South Africa. Probably if they were available, is what I talk about availability, injury prevention, ensuring the recovery protocols are in place, we might have given South Africa probably a score of 350, 360, which we may have achieved, or which may have surpassed. But what happens is, even in the cricket scenario, it's all about, okay, making sure we get the bowling composition right or the batting order right, but neglecting that area to make sure that the best players are available for selection. So I think that's a big factor that we really need to close the gap in Sri Lankan sports, and I think after Kusal's talk today, it will be much more clear to all of you. So I'll just hand it over to Kusal and hope you all enjoy the talk.
Hi everyone, how are you? First thing I'm going to get you guys to do is stand up. Stand up first. Stand up, hopefully you can see me. The first thing I'm going to get you to do is go up on your tiptoes, up and down. How many times? What do you guys think? 10, Kusal, 10. Okay, 10 it is. Someone's counting? This is one thing when I've lectured in Sri Lanka, everyone's very shy initially, and then they start understanding my jokes and my humor, and then they start laughing, and my wife keeps telling me, stop your jokes, just pass on the content. That's the most important part. But I enjoy this. Why do you think this is important? This exercise is important? Yeah, it is. What was that? Icebreaker? It is an icebreaker. All right, cross your arms. Turn to the left. Turn to the right. Turn to the left. Turn to the right. Keep turning. Keep going. Let's do 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Grab a seat. Everything that I will share with you today is backed by science, including those two things that we've started with, what I've started with you today. Everything is backed by science. My background, I left Sri Lanka when I was less than 10 years old, back in 1985. Moved to Australia. I did my primary school, secondary school. My brother, I've got a younger brother, he's a sports physio as well. And in that time, I did my undergrad, my master's, all at Melbourne University, then at La Trobe University. And right now, I cover the Melbourne Uni Olympic squad. So I've got 250 elite athletes. Just last week, I was at the University Nationals. We had 375 athletes, and there was only 5 sports med. So Gayath Jayasinghe, he's one of our sports scientists. He's from Melbourne as well. So we came here to showcase some of the latest work that I've been presenting at the Australian Physio Association in Australia, and I thought I need to bring this to Sri Lanka because the last time I was here was 4 years ago. And we would have come a lot more often, but because of COVID, we couldn't travel and we weren't allowed to. So here we are. So today's talk is based on achieving peak performance in sports and life. What you will find, and what Bilal touched on, is half of that pie chart. If you actually apply some of those concepts, life becomes a lot easier, and it is backed by science. There's a couple of things that I'm going to ask you to do. Anything of interest that I share, anything of interest that is for you, I want you to note that down. So note down maybe the top 3 tips. You might have 5 tips, you might have 10 tips, but note that down. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a chance to share that, and that's going to be important as well, and that's backed by science as well, and I'm going to talk about that as we go along. The first question I have for you today, who here is breathing right? I ask this of my audiences everywhere. Who here is breathing right? Have you ever thought about it? No one cares. Let's do this. One hand on tummy, other hand on chest, and I want you to take a deep breath in. Deep breath in. Close your eyes. Deep breath in. Which hand moved? The hand on the chest or the hand on the tummy? Hand on the tummy moved. Very good answer. Which one should move? Hand on the tummy. Why is that? It's very important that the hand on the tummy, when you inhale, your tummy should go out. So it's like really getting your tummy full, because the diaphragm actually pushes down and clears the lungs for a larger lung volume. But in today's society, when you tell people to take a deep breath in, what are they doing? Oops. So they're breathing from here. It's actually the worst thing you can do, and I'll explain why. So when you're breathing in, the tummy should go out. Very, very vital. When the chest goes out, and most of you guys are athletes here, when the chest goes out after competition, after training, yes, you're by there, you go, that's okay. You are trying to increase your lung volume. But in a relaxed state, it should be the other way around. And that is the most important thing in everyday life, that when you get the breathing right, your concepts of training, concepts of competition actually improve. So two of my athletes who's at the Australian Open, Laura Siegmund, Vera Zvonareva, tennis players, you'll see them at the end of each set or each game. They're sitting down, towel over their head, and they're just breathing. And they're trying to get this diaphragmatic breathing. When you create this diaphragmatic breathing, you're creating more oxygen. And us as human beings, we need that oxygen. And you need that for performance. This brings me to one important breathing technique that I want to share with you. It's called the physiological sigh. And we're all going to practice this. First of all, there's 3 steps to this. The first step is you're going to take a deep breath in. So put your hand on tummy, okay? You can close your eyes. Really focus on breathing in, and I want you to expand the tummy. And all through the nose. Right at the top of your breath, you take one quick one. So it'll sound like this. One quick one. Nice. And then you purse your lips and breathe it out. Let's do it again. Breathing in. I don't mind you making noise as you do this. Breathing is vital, and when you get it right, it works very, very efficiently. Let's do it 5 more times. Breathing in, sharp, and then pursed lips, out. Number 2. You guys are doing this really well. Excellent. Try and grow nice and tall in your chair. Don't slouch. Nice and tall. Allow for that lung volume to increase. Was that number 3? Let's do number 4. And last one. And now I'd like you to open your eyes. How do you feel? A bit lightheaded? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel uncomfortable? This physiological sigh has been proven by science from the 1930s to reduce cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. In our bodies, in everyday life, we're going through so much in everyday life. So naturally, the cortisol levels go up, 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 until too much cortisol means that clear thinking, decision making, focus, and concentration go down. So the physiological sigh has been proven to make a difference to cortisol levels and neurologically to get the brain and the body aligned together. Guess how many breaths you need to do to make a change physiologically or for the cortisol? Anyone want to have a guess? No one wants to have a guess? One. Yes, it's actually one breath that can change this. One breath. I've got my athletes doing 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day from the time they get into the training, so they might get dropped off and they're walking. Five minutes a day. When you do 5 minutes a day, you're then getting the body ready and body prepared for training and also the games. Who here are cricketers? Oh, good. We've got a few cricketers. So, who here are batsmen? Batsmen? So the batsman, if you're not facing and you're at the other end, while you're waiting till the bowler bowls, I've got my athletes doing this. Because you're then optimizing your brain and your body for that impact. What other sport have we got here? We've got cricketers, the bowlers. So bowling mark, so if you're a fast bowler, you know, at the top of mark, you've got your one breath done. So you can build it into whatever sport you're doing. What other sport do you guys do? We've got cricketers, who else have we got? Basketballers, great. Tennis. Tennis is an ideal one. You've got plenty of time to do this all the time. And the more you do it, you actually always recalibrate the body. Otherwise, the cortisol levels, fatigue, all of that sets in. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more. But this is one of the most powerful methods that is underutilized today. So I've now introduced this to all of our Olympic level athletes at the University of Melbourne, and introducing it as part of a routine on a daily basis, every day. I've got others doing it first thing in the morning. As soon as they wake up, in bed, lying down, they're doing it. Just before they go to sleep. So this is very powerful. Where have you guys seen this before? Have you guys seen this in real life before? Do you want to have a guess where? Usually when children cry, they go, that's the physiological sigh, okay? And that's because even from a child's perspective, you'll see dogs doing it as well, you'll see animals doing it, because that's the natural way of getting that increase in oxygen into the system. How it works is you build up the lung volume, that short, sharp burst actually opens, there's these tiny little sacs in our lungs, alveoli, and it pops open. So you're increasing the lung volume every single time. Is that interesting? Yeah? No? Tough crowd. Who here has problems sleeping? There's always a few. If you want to get to sleep, one of the quickest ways is, let's try this. I want you to breathe in. All of this is through the nose. You're going to breathe in through the nose on a count of 4. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Out on 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The exhalation has to be much longer than the inhalation. Let's try it again. Close your eyes. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now please open your eyes, otherwise I have very sleepy attendees. When you start doing this, you don't have to count sheep. In Australia, they talk about counting sheep, focus, meditation, concentration. This is one of the quickest ways to help fall asleep. And this breathing technique has been used in yoga for many centuries. So it's very fast and works really well. Inhale for a count of 4, exhale on a count of 8. The exhalation has to be a lot longer. That's important. Also, what breathing does is it brings everything to the power of, or the present moment. There's 3 things in life. There's the past. The past is what? It's already happened. It's a memory. The future is what? It hasn't happened. It's your imagination. Where should athletes be? Present. Yes, Kusal, present. Present. The present moment. The athletes who I've had who have succeeded a lot more often over decades have just been able to maintain in the present moment. Why is that important? Because you get to succeed. The past, you can't change it. The future, can you change it? No, you can imagine it, but you can't change it. The present moment is what you can change. And that's what that is. The present moment is set up by your 5 senses. Sight, sound, what are the others? Taste, touch, taste. What am I missing? Smell? Smell. If you are conscious of your 5 senses, you are in the present moment. So if you want to learn how to meditate properly, whatever your chewing gum is, you're feeling that in the mouth. You taste that. Whatever you're touching at that point, you're focused on that. Whatever you're seeing is very important. But sometimes sight, oh, wow, that's the same one I've got in Melbourne. And then all of a sudden, you're not in the present moment, you're thinking about something else, right? So you have to make sure you can keep it in the present moment. But it takes practice. Just like you guys train a lot, all of these things, when you do it, you actually add everything onto what Bilal was talking about, the important half of that pie chart. Is this stuff interesting at the moment? Yeah? Oh, good. This is what my daughter told me. I teach my kids the physiological side. So I've got my daughter's 9, my son's 7. And my daughter was sick maybe about a month, 2 months ago. And I was teaching them the physiological side. I said, whenever you feel stressed, whenever you're going into a game, she plays netball, my son plays basketball. My youngest, tries to play everything. He's only 3. And I said, okay, when you're stressed or before the game, this is what you do. So they all practice the physiological side. And then when Jade was sick, sorry guys, when Jade was sick, she was, throwing up. And then all of a sudden she came out and said, oh, Daddy, I didn't need to throw up. I'm actually okay. I said, oh, what happened? Everything? She said, oh, I did your breathing technique. So from a young age, when you start doing it, you actually start, you'll start seeing results. And the more you practice this on a daily basis, from a young age, it becomes a habit. Is it a good habit? Yes. And these are some of the main concepts that I'm teaching you today is creating the habit of mind, body, and also ultimately the soul. And that's something very important. Okay, who here does cold baths? Has anyone experienced cold baths? Yes? Cold baths, yeah? Cold immersion, good. Who here has cold showers? Good. Warm showers? What does everyone else do? No showers? Huh? Okay, so There's a concept called hormesis. Hormesis is pushing the body outside its comfort zone. You can be really hot or really cold. The most important thing is when it's really hot or really cold, if it's really cold, you only need 2 minutes a day, every single day. So what we do in Australia for all of our athletes, they have a normal shower, warm water, because Melbourne weather can be cold. They have their warm shower, and then ideally hot completely off. So outside temperatures can range from 5 degrees to 12. Water temperature is something about 12 to 15, maybe a bit colder. And that's for the cold. There's also the extreme heat. So saunas, we have saunas or steam rooms. And whenever you are going into, and those are about 10 minutes a day. If you're doing hot cold, that's ideal, especially after training, especially after a lot of endurance work. The cold is quite vital. In places like Sri Lanka, I highly recommend doing the cold. Now you can create the cold yourself. In Melbourne, sometimes we have big, they're big like rubbish bins, wheelie bins. Fill it up with ice, water, and people just get in. Only 2 minutes. Why is it important is because of this. There's white fat in the body. White fat is the bad fat. Okay? Brown fat is the protective layer around our organs. You want to have brown fat because brown fat has very good thermoregulation. It means that your immune system is much better. So the more you do it, your immune system gets stronger. And if you have a strong immune system, when you're training very hard, you're more likely to stay up. Some of you may have experienced, you've gone and trained outside in the heat, all of a sudden you're not used to it, and then you feel drained, you feel unwell, and then you end up with a cold or a flu. This kind of work can then help limit that. Only 2 minutes. So in Melbourne, what we do is we try and do the cold a lot more. So they're having a normal shower, and then they're doing the cold. Emotion you should have when you get hit by the cold is like this. It should take your breath away. That's how you know how cold it is or how hot it is. So when people are going into the sauna, they go, oh my God, that's unbelievable. And then you breathe in and out, back to the nose breathing, bring it back. Same with the cold. Hot off, all cold. Do whatever you want. After that, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And the more you practice getting that breath right, when the body's getting pushed in outside its comfort zones, you start getting solid results. And this is the number one emotion for successful hot-cold. If you can replicate that face. The other thing that cold immersion does, there's a concept called catecholamines. This is adrenaline, noradrenaline. We're ready. Adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. Feel-good hormones. Feel-good hormones is what we always need. And you can make them rise up. You can take drugs. Best not to if you're an athlete. It won't take you far. This is one of the most natural ways of doing that. When you do the extreme cold, extreme hot, you instead of having a rush for only 9 minutes, it can last up to 2 hours. So I've got my athletes doing this even the cricketers, before the game, they will do a cold plunge. They will take a cold shower. Because I think Sri Lanka is a very good example. If you ever travel up country, you can have a bath in the cold, streams and the cold waterfalls. They're very therapeutic. Whoever has done that here? Yeah, it feels good, right? It feels extremely invigorating. And that rush is actually the dopamine, the adrenaline, and the noradrenaline, and you get a 2-hour rush. And if you start doing it on a daily basis, your levels don't drop. When adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine go up, your decision making, your focus, your concentration, they all improve. Why is that important in sport? Is it important in sport? Yeah. Because when you become fatigued, that's when you're losing focus. You're not playing the right shot, and you lose out. The cold stuff, by the way, everything I've shared with you to date, I've experimented on myself. When I first started taking cold showers in Melbourne, my wife said, darling, she said this, I will bet you can't. And me being a sports physio, I'm very competitive, I play a lot of sport, I said, I can do whatever I want, I'm going to show you. So I told my wife, this is what I'll do. And over the last winter was the first time where I'm having a hot shower and then cold. And she's like, oh my God, you're nuts. Because it's freezing outside. But it is very, very therapeutic. And then we've got our staff doing it as well. Gayab does it, you know. He does this back in Melbourne as well. And amongst our staff, we're doing this so we can then share it with our athletes. The next thing that I want to talk about is visualization. Michael Phelps. Who's Michael Phelps? Swimmer, right? One of the best swimmers around. One of the key ways that he did really well was a visualization technique. He used visualization to improve. His coach, so Michael Phelps used to be quite stressed all the time. And his coach would say, okay, sit down, Michael, close your eyes, play the tape. So Michael would sit down, close his eyes. What he meant by play the tape, he has to imagine him jumping off, swimming across, doing stroke by stroke, imagining himself doing it stroke by stroke. At the end, how he touches, how he finishes is exactly how he would finish the race. He touches the hand, looks up at the clock, and he can see the time he's done, which was the record. He would continue playing that tape, continue playing that tape, continue playing that tape. And ultimately, that's what he did. So from the time he pushed off to the other end, how he pushed, held at the end, looking at the clock, he had that all in his memory. And that's the power of visualization. And that's an example Michael Phelps did. Do you know who this is? Have you guys seen this chap? Gat, what's his name? Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold. Who's seen his documentary? Do you know what he's climbing there? He's climbing a sheer granite wall in Yosemite National Park. These are tiny trees, and that's what he climbed. This is the size of, what's the tallest building in Dubai? Burj Khalifa. He climbed that without a rope, and what people normally take to go up, which is something like, Gat, do you know how long it takes normally with rope to climb up? I think it's a couple of days to climb up. They stop, and he did it in 4 hours. So 3 hours, 56 minutes. I don't know why that's cut off. And he visualized doing each step. And it took him 10 years to visualize that. Because what he did there was every move was a sequence. Every sequence was memorized. He would remember the path. He would go up. And some of the points were as thick as your fingernail. So if he missed one, or him doing this is like winning a gold medal or dying. There's nothing in between. It's a wonderful documentary. I'd recommend you watch that on Netflix. So he did that on this granite wall. More interesting was this young man, Marc-Andre Leclerc. When they asked Alex Honnold, oh, who do you look up to? He said, oh my God, Marc-Andre, he's nuts. Marc-Andre, he waits till waterfalls freeze. Then he climbs that without a rope. So each of these sequences, he doesn't have anything to practice on except what he's doing right in that moment. So being present is one of the most vital things. This is a very interesting, if you're thinking of taking your sport to the next level, watch this documentary as well, Alpinist. It's all about mindset. It's all about being the best you can be in the sport that you're doing. So 2 documentaries I'd highly recommend. Marc-Andre Leclerc, The Alpinist, and the other one with Alex Honnold. There's a recipe for visualizations. It's only 15 seconds. So if you can visualize how your arm is, where you're bowling, wrist, okay? What were the other sports? Tennis, forehand, backhand, how you serve, slice. If you can visualize what you're doing over 15 seconds, that is the recipe, that is the key. You need to be doing approximately 50 sets of the 15 seconds. Now, if you're strength training or training with Bilal, it's the same thing. Whatever you're doing in terms of movement, in terms of activities, strength work, you want to be doing that as well. 50 sets, which is about 12 and a half minutes. And you do approximately 3 sessions a week. The ratio is for every 10 hours of training, which is physical training, doing 1 hour of visualization is very powerful. With my athletes, I get them to video themselves because we know visualizations work when you're watching yourself. When you watch yourself, and in today's day and age, everyone's got a phone. You put the phone down at the other end of the tennis court, and you're with your coach practicing the forehand. That 45 minutes of training, go home and watch it because you will learn a lot about yourself. Elite athletes are so good at what they do because my cross-country skiers, my downhill skiers, they've got camera angles everywhere. They can go and watch themselves and they can learn about the problems that they have. And you guys can have that right now. The technology right now is available. You can become so good in such a short period of time. It's actually a very exciting time to be in sports medicine. It's actually a very exciting time to be a young athlete because the older athletes didn't have this. Also, the older athletes, they're not used to filming themselves if they're training, watching themselves. Yeah? So you have to be doing 15-second blocks of imagining, but video yourself. Every time you video yourself, you'll know you're not doing something right. You're not hitting it right. You're not in the right position. Your balance is off, and you'll be able to improve that. Next, I want to cover sedentary postures. Sedentary postures are the biggest thing that we're finding in my research that's holding people back. I want you all to feel your muscles in your shoulder or through your neck there, okay? Feel it. Close your eyes. Ooh, this is loud. Feel it. Feel both sides. Does that feel tight? It's not soft, is it? It's very tight. Now, I want you to just feel your biceps. Most of you work out, young athletes. It's nice and soft, isn't it? In a relaxed state, everything in our body should be nice and soft. Feel your legs, it should be nice and soft. You know, you can poke it, but this is firm. Why is this firm? Why is this that firm? Because in today's world, we're like this. Everything is down and forward. To work out whether your muscles are relaxed, feel this part of your hand, and you can close your eyes. It's best to feel with your eyes closed. Feel that, okay? Just note how soft that is. Now, I just want you to just touch in a very dainty way, just touch the 5th finger and feel that. Has it gone hard? It's pretty firm. Isn't that like your shoulder? So it shouldn't be that firm. If you feel any muscle and it feels like this, that's not good. In Australia, that's how we cook steak. So this is well done, this is raw. In a relaxed state, we are raw animals. You want to have raw in a relaxed state. So why do we have muscles that turn out hard? Does this look commonplace? Who sees this? We see this all the time. Every athlete that comes in through the door at my clinic, we say, okay, you go home, you take a photo of how you sit at your desk. I'll explain why. Doesn't that look much nicer? All right. Little by little, everyone's like straightening up a little bit, which is nice. We should be always sitting or standing at your proper height. What does that mean? If someone were to say, okay, let's do this, everyone stand up. Standing up is very important. All right, give your legs a bit of a shake. Give your legs a bit of a shake. 1, 2, how many of these guys? What do you think? Don't care? All right, let's do 5. Someone will call out a number one day and they'll be my favorite. Shoulders back. Let's do 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, give everything a bit of a shake. Excellent. 70% of us are what? Water. Encased in this soft thing called skin. We were meant and designed to move. We're not meant to be seated. So, everyone knows they're standing. I want you to imagine someone measuring your height. How would you stand? Oh, look at that. All right. Grow nice and tall. Now feel this. Does that feel a little bit better? That's how you should be standing. Now, maintain that. Sit down. Sit down. And imagine someone's going to measure your height while seated. How would you sit? That's how you'd sit. Now feel that. Has that changed? It has. For some of you it has. For some of you it hasn't. For those who hasn't, it means that there are other things that are slowing your muscles down. And this is one of the quickest ways we as sports physios work out whether it's muscle, joint, ligament, nerve, and we then break that up. Who sees this a lot? Have you guys seen this? All the time. You might see it with the young students, you might see it with children, you might see it with people down the street. They're like this. After COVID, there were so many students, Melbourne University, they're like this. Headphones on, walking around, nearly getting hit by cars. But you can see how tight the whole system becomes. Do you know how heavy the head is? Does anyone want to have a guess? Any number? How heavy is the head? Quick, ChatGPT, work it out. How heavy is the head? Did someone say number? 10? Someone said something else? 7.5? 12.5? It's 5. It's 5 kilos. Approximately 4 to 6 kilos. 6 is a big head. 4 is a smaller one, right? 5 on average. That is 5 kilos. Head is in a line with the heart and the pelvis. You're sitting there beautifully. Head is in line with head, heart, pelvis. When it's like this, guess how much the head weighs? 25 kilos. And what controls that 25 kilos? That poor neck. Do you guys know how many joints we have from here to here? Want to have a guess? Gosh, him and his questions, why doesn't he just give us the answer? It's 21 joints. From here to here, you have 21 joints. And 21 joints is getting all tightened up. So imagine if you actually stay like this for 2 minutes, do you think it's a good thing? No. A lot of people stay like that for a lot longer, don't they? Like this. How long do people spend on their phones? In Australia, we calculated The research shows that people look at their phones up to 100 to 120 times a day. So that's 120 times like this. You're never like this. You're never looking at it in a straight way. And you're always then adding pressure. And then you want to go and do training. Is the training as effective? No. So this is the most important part, that if you get sedentary lifestyle right, then training becomes easier. Games become easier. And then the brain is very thankful for all the hard work that you're doing. So we see a lot of these postures that are not good, and it's all about changing it to the ones on the right. Always remember head over heart, heart over pelvis. Head over heart, heart over pelvis. That creates balance. If you're a tennis player, unless you're reaching for something, you want to be head over heart, heart over pelvis. As a batsman, balance, control, you're in the same thing. The more time you create the power shots or the power that you want, if you have that alignment, then the shots that are much harder to hit is much better. Muscle memory. So it's all well and good to be like this, but then it's hard work, isn't it? Because right now you're like, oh my God, I'm a bit tired. But this is muscle memory. How many repetitions does it take to go from here to here and make this automatic? Do you guys know the magic number? Do you want to have a guess? What's the magic number for muscle memory? How many reps? 3,000. For a simple movement from here to here, it's 3,000. Technically difficult movements like golf, swimming, basketball, cricket, bowling, batting, it's about 10,000 repetitions. So that needs to be practiced 10,000 times. So Tiger Woods, which is with his coach Butch Harmon, if Tiger had to change something at his wrist, at ball strike, he would practice that 10,000 balls, because then when he's out doing it for real, it's automatic. When it's automatic, is there a less chance of injury? Yeah. And that's why training the right way is important. And you start getting results in about 15 to 30 days for the simple movements. So simple things like posture, improving your posture within 15 days. There are a lot of people who say, oh no, Kusal, I've always been like this forever. I can't improve this, which is nonsense. It's first you get everything set up. And then when you get everything strong, it stays there. And that you'll start getting results. And if you're doing 3,000 reps, in about 15 days, you're going to get some solid results. This is one of my volleyballers. So this is one of those photos I said, every athlete takes a photo of how they study. Is her head above her heart? No. Is her heart above her pelvis? No. That's the computer screen there, right? Is that a good thing? Nope. The only good thing is her elbows are rested, which is good, but that's the only good thing. If she wasn't looking at anything and she just had to sit there like this, how long do you think she could last for? How long do you think you could last for? I'll guarantee you after about 5 minutes you'd be standing up and going, oh my God. But we've got young athletes, and these are student athletes, just like you guys. They will stay there 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. Oh my God, my assignment. And they'll spend all that time. And being a volleyballer, being in this position, that becomes a muscle memory. And then all the training she does, there's so much more training she has to do to get her up to a certain level. So training then is just getting her out of injury, whereas she can then prevent that. Now this is one of the latest things that I'm developing with the Department of Engineering. This is my arm, and it's a tattoo. This is a tattoo sensor. the tattoo sensor you stick on, and in the course of a day, it'll tell me whether I'm slouching, when I'm slouching, and then it'll give a reminder on my smartphone saying, hey, Kusal, you were giving that talk, but geez, most of the time you were really bad. So then I'll be able to then create a feedback loop to then help me improve. The more feedback loops you create in real time, the more powerful you are. All right? So this part here, one thing I'd recommend all you young guys, take photos of how you sit at your desk. Put the camera here, phone here, and you just sit at your desk, work away, and see if one, head should be above heart, heart over pelvis, and you want to have your arms rested. And your screen should be here. Your screen should be there. Very, very important. You guys will do that? No, I don't care, Kusal. Please do it. All right. This is one of the most important tests for young athletes, but also as we age. There's a test where if you can lie down or stand up, you lie down, and then you get off the floor without using your hands. A physician from Brazil worked this out. The longer you can do this, you will find you can live a lot longer. You start off with 10 points. Every time you use your hand to get down, knee, push off, up, every time you use that, you lose a point. If you're scoring more than 8, you're doing pretty well. If you're scoring less than 6 and less, you're not doing too well. And that's primarily because as we age, a lot of people in today's society, we're not using our legs enough. The legs are the foundation for everything else to work. So you have to make sure your legs are good. Back in the day, when we all lived in caves, we were running away from things. There's a lion, you know, there's things, danger, run, activity, everything down here. And in today's society, we're driven places. We're in buses, in Melbourne, in trams. There's a lot of sitting, okay? So we're not meeting even 6,000 to 8,000 steps, which I call the minimum. 10,000 is a little bit of overkill. So just make sure if you can do this test, you're doing pretty well. And for young athletes, it's a wonderful test because it shows, I'll finish this and then, because if, as a young athlete, and you can then get off the floor, it shows flexibility in the hips, flexibility through your core, strength through the legs, and balance. And for young athletes, it's an amazing test. And if the longer you can do that, the better. And the day you feel you've got an injury, you'll be able to pick up the injury before the injury happens. Because when this tightens up and you can't get off the floor, you think, oh my God, that's when you'll need to see your physio. That's when you'll speak to Bilal's team. You'll say, this test I could do, all of a sudden I can't. And then Bilal's team will check it out. We'll say, okay, here are the tests that we need to do to conduct, and let's see what's going on. Question?
So just, the test starts standing up and then lay down and then stand up?
Yes. Standing up. Yeah, who wants to do this? Yeah, one of the cricketers? Who wants to do it? They're like, oh, no, don't look at me. Yeah, no one comes. Who is enjoying my jokes? Ah, you can do it. All right. What's your name? Manush. Kusal. Anush. Anush, so you're going to pretty much stand up, sit down, but don't use your hands. If you have to use your hands, that's okay. We won't judge you. All right? All right, guys, drum roll. We want to, Anush, here. What are you, batsman, bowler?
Bowler.
Oh, wow. All right, let's go. Have you had a good season? Oh, you haven't started. Here we go, huh? Ideal test. Off you go. Yep, just go to the ground. Not bad. And from there, lie down. Yep, good. Now come back up without using your hands. Oh, see that? So he lost 1 point. Also, you could see Anush using one leg, trying to figure out what to do to get up. And as you practice this, you'll find that there are different ways of doing this. What I'll do, Bilal, I'll send you the link, pass it on to everyone. There's actually 6 or 7 different ways of getting up. And the more you practice that, it's actually quite good. Round of applause for... What's that? That was a 9, yeah. That was a 9. That's not bad. How old are you?
17.
All right. I want to see you better than that, though. When you're 17, you should be just getting up and down really comfortably. But as you guys can see, it's a wonderful test to see how good your hips are. As you age, when you can start doing that test, you'll find back problems, shoulder problems, headaches, all go out. It helps minimize that. It's one way that you will continue to live longer, because the Brazilian physician found the stronger the legs are, you've got more area, more ways of improving heart and lung volume. And when you improve that, you're going to do really well. So something that they used on the elderly, we now use with our Olympians. Is that interesting? It's pretty good, isn't it? Stand up, lie down, stand up again, no hands. It's called the sit to rise test, and it's a test on longevity, but for young athletes, it's really good because you're working out movement patterns. All of my slides are going to be available for you guys, so you'll have that. Most of the content, well, all the content will be videoed as well, so you'll have that too. Neuroplasticity. We're getting towards the end. This is an axon. This, from the brain to the muscles, these things keep firing, and the messages go down, and you start getting movement from the brain. The brain controls everything. This here is a standard neuron. So if we do a cross-section of this, it would look like that. What you want it to look like is this. The nerve is surrounded by a substance called the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is a thickening, and it makes the nerve a superconductor. Sends the messages down as quickly as possible. So this is very good for muscle reaction time. This is very good for injury prevention. To go from here to here, you have to train when you're somewhat fatigued. So 2 to 3 times a week, some of our batsmen, before they go out and bat, we get them skipping. Skipping, 2 minutes. Skipping, and then, okay, I'm tired. Quick drink of water, now they go and play. So they're training under duress, they're training under load. Why is that important? It's important because you're replicating what happens in a real game. You're replicating what happens when you're pushed outside your comfort zone. When the body and the nerves, in this case, is pushed outside the comfort zone, the myelin sheath thickens up. It becomes a superhighway. And as a superhighway, decision making, focus, concentration, all those things I talked about before just continuously improve. So we call this training under load. We call it grey zone training, where there's black and white training, very easy or very hard, but you start mixing things up. And one of the ways of doing that is either physical stress, like skipping, or you're very tired at the end of the day, and then you're going into training. The other way is mental stress. So say you've had a very difficult day, under a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and the last thing you want to do is go and train. That's the best time to train, because you're going to develop a much more resilient myelin sheath. So the whole system becomes a superhighway of information for you. Does this prevent injury? Yeah. So once again, we're training smart. These are the 3 books I've written. I'm going to start here, Natural Healing. It was co-written by Helene Finizio. Helene is a meditation expert for billionaires in Los Angeles. Back pain, 80% of all my work has been on spinal problems because 80% of people have got back problems. 3-minute workouts was one of my latest books. Which one do you think was the most popular? Yeah. Why? Why do you think 3-minute workouts was the most popular? 3 minutes. You're like, just do it, Kusal. Just tell me what I need to do in 3 minutes. That's it. Because in the 1950s, when they said, oh, what's the reason you're not exercising? It was time. What's the number one reason people don't exercise today? It's time. We have all the best computers, we've got the phones, we're just connected, hyper-connected with all this technology. Oh, I've got no time. And that's how this book was born. And in 3 minutes, it replicates what people might end up doing in a 30-minute workout. So it's backed by the World Health Organization. Then a professor from Canada came and he wrote the 1-minute workout. And it verified everything. It improves heart, lung volume. So it always kept on going as an improvement in everyday life. And that verified my work. So I was very grateful for him. But these are the 3 books. What this does, it's high intensity interval training. For 3 minutes, you're really pushing outside your comfort zone. And that's what I was talking about for the myelin sheath thickening. So if you're continuing to do something like this, and then you're applying it for your sport, cricket, basketball, tennis, anything, you're going to really push yourself outside your comfort zone. You can't always do it, because that's not good, but 3 to 4 times a week will really take you to another level. And that'll give you the edge over your competitors. Sometimes people hit the brick wall because they train too hard. They do the same training over and over and over and over and over and over. And then you just hit a brick wall and that's it. There's a calculation that you can do. There's a skill set ratio. This challenge to skill set ratio, the challenge that you have, or the training load that you have, has to be about 4% more than your skill set. That is the magic number. So whenever you're training in whatever sport that you're doing, make sure the difficulty level is about 4% more. So how the heck do you calculate 4%? It can be done with time, it can be done with intensity. One of the record holders for the deep sea dive, free diving, this lady, she was injured. She dived down to the level that she got, stopped there. The next day, 4% more. Next day, 4% more. Next day, 4% more. Like that. And that's how then she broke that record. So the challenge to skill set ratio, the sweet spot is 4%. If you can start calculating what you do and start doing that, and working with people like Bilal is ideal because they measure everything. They measure weights, they measure time, they measure repetitions. All of this is very valuable. And then the final thing is tapering. So just before a major tournament, all my athletes, we stop everything. No more training. No more physio unless they're injured, unless we need to give them a peak performance tune-up. They stop everything and we say, go and watch a movie. Go and spend time with family. Don't think about your sport. Because if you continue training, even at this sweet spot, you're building up cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. You don't want stress just before you compete or play. You want all that flushed out. And there's another hormone called nitric oxide. So when you taper off, go and watch a movie, spend time, not think about the sport, it actually flushes out the cortisol and this nitric oxide comes up. And you just start feeling rejuvenated, completely ready. And for young athletes, it's wonderful. And for everyday life, it's amazing. And this is the same thing in not just sport, but in activities of life. This chart here, and we're just coming right to the end of my talk now. This took me 25, I've been a sports physio for 25 years. Over 25 years, there's a process that I've used to help my athletes, help my clients. By the end of this year, I would have completed about 85,000 treatments. Every athlete of mine, this is where I start. We start off looking at biomechanics, looking to see, and this is my area of specialty, where we look to see where your biomechanics are, in terms of how your nerves, muscles, joints, and ligaments are working. You might be a cricketer, bowler, batsman, you might be a right-handed tennis player, you might be a right-handed basketballer, netballer, volleyballer, whatever you do, we check the whole body. Why is it important that I check the whole body? Because the whole body is required. I've got 100-meter sprinters. In sprinting, is the arms important? Yes. For those who say, oh no, don't worry about that shoulder injury for running, okay, well, try running like this with your arms by your side. You're not going to go very fast. You need to have good control through the arms, good strength. So this is what we check. This is what I check. Then, as we check this, it improves flexibility, control, the core. Now, you can see the icing on the cake. This is why I love working with S&C specialists, because they make sure all of this is taken care of from the S&C side. On top of that, I see what people are doing in a 24-hour cycle. See sleep? Vital. Who here is getting 8 hours of sleep? Good. 8 hours of sleep. Get your sleep. Sleep is one of the best things that will help flush out anything bad, the inflammation, and rejuvenate the muscles, joints, ligaments, and also your brain. That's why sleep deprivation is a torture technique. You keep someone up for more than a few days, they actually go mad. Then how you train is very important. The sport that you do, it has to be customized. Your training has to be customized for that sport. Otherwise, Arnold Schwarzenegger should play all the sport brilliantly, right? He's got all the muscles. It doesn't work that way. It's all about movement patterns. It's all about what you've got and how to improve the movement patterns you do really well. And this is probably the most exciting thing about Sri Lanka right now. We've got so much talent here. And I'm so glad I was able to come and share this, because if you tweak these little things, you can become, you can challenge anyone in the world stage, which I've seen. Then work and study. How you sit, how you study, how you get that right. And make sure your children get that right. As soon as they're not doing it, just correct them straight away. It's kind of like swearing. You never want them to swear. It's like, hey, do it right, otherwise get off it. Very simple, because it is that dangerous. Next is nutrition. I'm very big on hydration and gut health. Getting hydration levels, getting the right nutrition, making sure you're eating and drinking the right things. And then the most important thing, which is the mind. I talked about the 5 senses. We also look at the emotions, the thoughts, consciousness. So we do a lot of work with mindfulness, meditation states, being in the present moment. And as a sports physio, you might think that all my work is here, but I'm completely evaluating people over there. Because 70% of all my work, if an athlete is stressed, they're going to have problems. And there's always 3 stages you as an athlete or your children will go through. Red zone, injured, uncomfortable, can't play, can't do the things they love. They go into the ambers, which is stiffness, tightness, annoyance. 70% of us, if you're not injured, will be in this yellow zone, because it's just the way we are as human beings. Green zone, there's only about 5% of us, always feeling good, optimized. And we fluctuate up and down. And that's where, when you fluctuate up and down, you will be given markers. So the S&C team will give you markers saying, oh, hang on a second, I don't like you doing this, so we need to change that. Let's get back up to green. Same with Gayat. Gayat and Gayat will do the 3D movement analysis. I'll be doing all of these things. And then we make sure that our athletes are always yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, green. After an injury, one of the common questions I get asked is, how quickly will I be healed? I say, if you can do everything that you want, and you can do it well without any symptoms for 4 weeks, that's when you're classified as healed. Up until then, you're still getting there. And that's vital that you then talk to the people that you're working with, because that's a team. So this is called K-theorem. Putting it all together, this first part here, the performance pyramid, it's like a band. A band comes together about to play music. The band, the music the band plays is what you create in the 24-hour cycle. When you get nutrition right, the band sounds amazing because that's the venue. So any band, you get the venue, sounds amazing, great experience. But the mind is like a tsunami. And that tsunami can wipe out a venue, it can wipe out the music, and it'll definitely wipe out the band. Because when you're stressed, you might not be eating well. When you're stressed, you might not be sleeping well. You can't train well. When you're stressed, you can't be bothered studying. And when you're stressed, what do you feel? Tight. So that tsunami is something always to look out for. And it's something as parents to watch for, and for young athletes to be aware of. Because the more you're aware of it, you can then control it. What it feels like when you put all of these concepts together, and you would have done a lot of training, you play a lot of sport, and that's really wonderful. When you put it all together, it's kind of like having a completely perfected road. It's very smooth. You as an athlete, that's what you're capable of. Less chance of injury. Much easier to get from A to B in your performance. So instead of a gravel road, a lot of people are still playing on a gravel road. Now, final bits. Who'd like to share what they've picked up today? Anyone like to put their hand up and say, yes, Kusal, that was interesting. This is what I picked up. Anyone? Or shall I tell you what I learned? No one? The reason why you want to share, some of you would have taken notes, some of you would have gone, wow, I really love the breathing. Or I really love the visualizations. Oh, I really like what he was talking about, the training. Whatever that resonated with you is what your brain needs. So that's vital that you have written down something or you've taken something away from this presentation. The other most important thing is whatever resonated with you, you might have two things, 3 things, 5 things, okay? The next 20 hours of practicing that is crucial. So I find that the first 20 hours of doing something, you will continue to master that. So the next 20 hours is crucial. And then the next question is, oh my God, I got off the ground. He said he was going to send me another video. Maybe I'll go search it up. You might need to find other information, okay? Whatever you're trying to learn, whatever that resonated with you, you want to dive in deeper and take that as part of the next 20 hours of practice. What would that do to you as an individual athlete or parent who's got a child? What do you think? It would definitely help you, because this is how you iron out the deficits in you as a person. So the beauty of all of this is whatever you've resonated with is what your brain and body has required you to improve on. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for listening. No clap? had to beg for a clap. Any questions, guys?
We'll take the question. So, yeah, we have question and answer time. Please feel free to ask some questions. But just before Q&A, I just want to thank Kusal for coming over and doing this talk. So, just want to give him a small appreciation.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Oh, thank you. We'll take a... Maybe come. Why not? Thank you. Thanks, guys. That's wonderful. My team will love to see this back in Melbourne. Any questions, guys? Yes? The first question is to be aware of posture. The child has to see themselves. So it's wonderful if on a daily basis, whatever they're doing, just do a video of them doing something. And then at the end of the day or later on, just show them. Sit down and watch it with them. Because then kids actually look at things differently and we all have a different analysis. So kids will actually pick up what they should be doing and what they shouldn't. So I'd highly recommend that. The other thing is when working with the team, show that video to the experts as well. And say, well, are you happy with this? Is this all right? And that's one of the quickest ways of doing that. In terms of specialization for children, what I say is let them do everything until they're sick of something. They might start with 7, one will go, another one will go, another one will go. And it will happen naturally. For sports, yeah. I tell a lot of parents, let children play whatever they want. Because ultimately there will be a time when sometimes there's a professional contract, sometimes there's 2 professional contracts, and they just choose the one they really love. Just go to what they love, because if a child loves that, they will actually excel in it without you even having to worry about it. You're setting the guidelines and supporting the foundation. Everything else is taken care of.
Because I can recollect.
Yes.
Like Susantika was visualizing sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes while having food, they might thank you, like, that she is going to get a medal from the podium.
Yes.
So it was coming to that. And I think her success was something that you were relating to, because any sportsman should visualize your targets and you have to aim at it and go and get all the information from different people. Now in Sri Lanka, it is not happening.
Right.
One thing is that I think you must be knowing about John Neighbours, the Olympic winner in swimming.
Right.
When Mark Spitz won 7 medals, he was watching TV and he had a pet event. I can't remember whether it is 50 meters freestyle or something like that. But he calculated, right, for next 4 years, how am I going to achieve this?
That's right.
And he went and asked different people like nutritionists, physio, doctor, psychologist, all those people, he went and asked whether I can achieve this if I do a training. But every day I have to target a time in 0.00001 seconds to achieve that. So they said yes, you can. And he went according to a target of his time. And he came to the world standard about 1.5 years before the Olympics, because he was targeting and he wanted to do it. So he had a team.
Yes.
And they were, like you said, they were monitoring every aspect, and every month they meet each other and discuss about this performance. So that is not happening. I think in Sri Lanka, most of the sports, like rehabilitation is concerned of our injured sportsmen,
Yes.
there is a comfort zone for the physiotherapist, right? He will look after the people who are in good health, in good condition, rather than going and trying to rehabilitate the person.
Yes.
The injured one. Takes time.
It does.
So that is also being but I would like to ask from Kusal also this question. Now I get a lot of sportsmen who come to me with injuries. They do only like they go for 3 or 4 sessions, gym sessions, and they say today I did for upper body. Following day they say that they did for the lower body.
Yep.
So this is a good thing to do, because I think it's from the head to toe that you need to do your exercises when you go to a gym.
Yes.
So with your experience, you can let us know.
So the first part that you touched on is we found teams or athletes who do really well have 4 things in common, 4 things that work really well. First, an athlete is very dedicated. They've got some form of talent, but they're very dedicated. Secondly, they've got very good coaches. Thirdly, they've got very good sports medicine around them. Fourthly is a strong administration. So, and the communication currency between the 4 is what we've analysed as then having an athlete doing well. That was proven when the Australian cricket team in the 90s, they had all those 4 factors working and it becomes a perfect storm. So it's very hard to lose. The West Indies back in the day had that. Unfortunately for Sri Lanka, say cricket as an example, 96 World Cup, all of that happened just once. The longer you can continue that, the better it is. The other concept of injury and how many sessions people might need has to be done so objectively. And everyone is different. So every athlete they get, or we get, we analyze according to our objective measures. So everything is measured. Everything is measured. Everything is measured, everything is measured. And we're doing these with things like the patient-reported outcome measures, the PROMs, scientifically backed, and we can then measure people as we go along. So when we're measuring many, many things, a team of us will come together and then discuss as we go along. But you can see it's not just the one expert, it's never just me. It has to be a team coming together. And that transparency has to be there. And also another thing is, I know from experience, good sports medicine, it's not about my ego. You know, Kusal, 25,000, 85,000 treatments, 25 years, oh my God, yeah, I know everything. I can't do that. I have to be, the person I'm seeing there and then is the person I'm seeing there and then. And that's very important.
If I can also just come into something, yeah, so what Doctor mentioned is also, just to answer your question, Doctor, specifically, no one can get stronger in 4 sessions, but it may be good enough to get them back up on their feet in 4 sessions. But with regard to injury, that's one thing we try to tell a lot of the athletes who want to come to a fitness center is, you can always train when you're injured. Because if you have an injured knee or an ankle, 75% of your body is yet working. You have healthy leg on the other side, and your upper body as well. And I think Kusal can elaborate on that, and there's also a concept called cross-transfer. So where there is research shows that actually, say for example, one shoulder is injured, and you're not working that at all, by training the other shoulder, you can actually improve the strength of the injured shoulder without working it by about 7 to 11%. So that concept of cross-transfer is also big. But unfortunately, most physiotherapists in Sri Lanka, the first thing they do is tell the athlete, don't train, don't do anything. And what that does is psychologically the athlete gets very demoralized because they go into a depression state because they cannot do their sport, they're used to being very physical, moving around. And the secondly, it also slows down the rehabilitation process because you use it or lose it. And the other one is, most injuries, by just waiting, you're going to get better by resting. But you're going to lose that skill on the sport. But to answer your question is, unless it's something where they cannot get off the bed, Kusal, I think every athlete can train. If they've got an injured knee, ankle, shoulder,
Yep.
may not be their sport, but they can get into the gym and strength train, and it will actually help their rehabilitation or working the other areas of the body.
Yeah, I completely agree. I use the mantra, any movement's an improvement. If you can move, you do it, but within tolerable levels of pain. You never push past pain. You have to listen to your body. There's these 3 phases, and also it's, Bilal, it's 25% the cross, yeah, so if one part is completely injured and you can't do much, if you actually train the other side enough and do that, according to some of the tools that I've mentioned, the bad side can improve by 25%. When people are in this red zone, injured, they can't do the things they love, usually they need to see us in our team about 6 hours in a period of 7 days. So in a week, it's a lot more intense, which is understandable because they're completely injured. When they're in these yellow zones, they usually need 6 hours over about 4 to 12 weeks. So it's a little bit more spread out. When they're in the green zone, when they're doing all of this well, I might see the athlete once a week to once every 6 months, depending on the sport. So it all is changed, all is different. Depends on the injury, depends on where people are at, how fast things are healing. But those are the guidelines that we have. Gayat, have you got anything to add to that, or?
I do. So everyone can see me. So to answer your question, sir, it's not just a matter of attending to head-to-toe movements, not a matter of upper body splits versus lower body splits on certain days. My ideology is as long as you hit certain movement patterns for the specific athlete, then you should be good. And when I say movement patterns, the body moves in 3 different planes. You've got these movements, you've got these movements, and rotational movements. So for any athlete, you hit these 3 movements, it should be good. There's no way in which you could go wrong as long as you hit those certain movements. And it doesn't matter how frequently you hit that. It doesn't matter if it's a lower body split versus upper body split. As long as you hit those certain movements, it should be good. If that answers your question.
No, especially I'm considering the strength training.
Yes.
Right.
Again, as this gentleman mentioned, it's a case-by-case approach as well. So it has to be client-specific, it has to be athlete-specific. Not 2 athletes are the same. So you have to be very careful in terms of what you provide for the athlete, how they respond to it as well.
But with regard to that question, doctor, so I think any athlete, probably over the age of 10 years old, mind you, should actually strength train twice a week. And you asked about the upper body, lower body split. That means for those who are like new to strength training, basically upper body means working your upper body one day, lower body means working your lower body one day. Technically, if you do upper body, lower body split, that's what we call a bodybuilding method. So what we will believe is the only people who should train like bodybuilders are bodybuilders. But again, unfortunately, majority of Sri Lankan sports is the bodybuilding method they are following, unfortunately. You can get decent results, but you're not optimizing. So if you can do, and if you are doing a bodybuilding method and just doing upper body one day and lower body one day, that means you're just working out once a week. That's how I see. But if you do full body in one session twice a week, you're working out twice a week. So I think any athlete should train minimum twice a week strength training full body to prevent injury, get stronger, get more powerful, and all those things that will enhance your sports performance. So I think if you can, the quicker, like say Sri Lanka can go away from that bodybuilding training, more functional approach to training, I think results will get better.
And I think one example is you have people going to the gym and they're doing bilateral, bicep curls. But where in life do you ever walk around like this, right? You're always going to either use one arm at a time and one leg at a time. So even if you're going to the gym, I say to a lot of my athletes, you can use this as a warm-up, but this is much more functional for you, for your sport. It has to be sport-specific. And that's why the individuality of what you guys do, and every individual athlete will have your individual program. Long gone are the days where every batsman will have the same program. Every fast bowler will have every tennis player. It's not like that at all, and it shouldn't be like that. Because just like with a recipe or just like with nutrition, you can't have, same thing given to the same person and expect people to improve, because every digestive system is different. So the uniqueness comes from that.
So I have a question with government. So one big issue we have in Sri Lanka is overtraining, particularly youth athletes, training like probably more than professional athletes and not getting enough recovery. Probably not a scientific question. What's the solution to that when you don't have cooperative coaches?
Yeah.
You have the strength and conditioning coach, physiotherapist sort of saying, taper down on the training a bit, they're getting injured. You tell them the science, but they're still not complying. How do you manage it?
I have often found then sometimes it's the physios giving too much exercises as well, and I certainly don't like that. One of the strategies I have with my young team back in Melbourne is give a physio or give your athlete the least number of exercises to get the maximum outcome. So, but overtraining, it can't be a simple solution. Hang on, you've got to slow down your training. You have to keep reminding these young athletes that, and also then finding ways to show them that
More
if,
than the athletes, the coaches. You know, I think
the coaches, yeah.
understand their body that they need to rest.
Yeah, the
But
coaches.
for the coaches, it's more like more is
I know,
sort of
that's-
better sort of thing.
That's a really tough one. I've had some difficult coaches. And we've had difficult coaches back in Melbourne.
So I think you now know our job here is
Yes, I know, yeah. So, look, I think that's, globally, but the more that I've been able to show the coaches the results that I'm getting, but making that objective, then, numbers don't lie. So showing them in a way that, oh, wow, look at this athlete, when they're training like this, their, improvements are much better, versus, oh, look, if they continue like this, it's not as good. So showcasing numbers and showcasing objective measures have been something that's worked in the past for us.
And you have coaches who have such wide attention spans.
Oh, yeah. Look, once again, it's that ego, right? And as with any entity, any organization, you have that. But then communication is very important. And you can't always win. It's unfortunate. Yes. Is Nathaniel Johnson, who's the director of VALD. VALD is a company where, and this is the technology we use back in Melbourne. It's a 3D technology. So just like a camera like this, athletes in front doing all the testing, and we get a full blueprint of the movement patterns. And some of that we'll be doing with your athletes end of this week with Gat Bilal. So measuring everything, but also showcasing that in a way that athletes understand, we understand, and then the coaches is one quick way of talent identification. That's one way. The other way is movement patterns and looking to see how their movement patterns are. So once again, that's the video sequences, how they train, how they play. The other concept that's twofold. One is, say, some of the scouts who see good athletes, but the other concept is the Moneyball concept, where they look at athletes who are very good at certain aspects, measure, and it's all based on numbers. But I find it's a gradual, it can't be one or the other. You have to work out what's working in terms of recognition for young athletes, and then see how that translates over time. Because I'll give you a very good example. Sometimes a young athlete, 12 years old, they'll have the best team. All of a sudden, they shoot up in height. And then, you have to monitor that as well. Growth spurts and things like that. But then the training load has to be monitored and varied. So everything, it's much more fluid than making things. You can make things very black and white, but it has to be very fluid.
Kusal, I'm not sure whether, because I think since the World Cup is going on, a lot of people would be interested.
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether you have any insight into the internal workings of our Sri Lankan cricket team.
Yes.
But what's your take on why we are getting injured? I know there will be several, but I'm sure they will be on.
So in my experience, we've evaluated a lot of sports around the world. And the 4 concepts I was sharing, you have athletes who are dedicated to the sport, dedicated to how they perform. That's important. Secondly, having coaches that understand and can talk and can relate. That's very important because it's another person that, going through this journey. Third thing is having proper sports medicine. And you can't have, you can have excellent sports medicine where the communication, the transparency is there. And finally, the administration that helps support all of those structures. So if you can look, say the Sri Lankan team, and if you give each of those entities a score out of 10, the athletes, the sports medicine, the coaches, and the administration, if you can give all of it 10, great. If you find some of those aspects are failing, then you know what you need to change. But looking at what's happened to the Sri Lankan team, back in '96, we had the perfect storm. That was That was really perfect. But the beauty of that was we could replicate that, because that's what the Australian cricket team did, for all of the 90s, sorry, the 2000s. So fingers crossed for the World Cup. I don't know.
Too much of cricket? Or?
No. I think it's not enough of the right cricket. Because if you overtrain, you will obviously break down. But even cricketers, and not just cricketers, but any sport, they have to be playing that sport, because it's all about the muscle memory. And, if you look from physical training to basketball, where you're just shooting a hoop, to versus, if a person can't jump and do it, versus, sitting down and visualizing it, they're still doing the sport. So when people are saying, in my experience, when people are saying, oh, look, it's been overtrained or too much of the sport, I think the foundation of getting the elements right are not there. But it has to be very sport specific. I totally agree. You can't just create strength training for everyone. It can't be a gym program. It has to be very functional. It has to be very sport specific, because you're creating the movement patterns. If you look at people like Tiger Woods, he'll hit 10,000 balls, no problem. 10,000 balls. He's not getting that full swing all the time. It might be just the chip or just the little movements, but he's still doing golf. Swimmers are another example. You can say, oh, swimmers overtrain, but they have to train that much. They have to do it in the pool. Yeah.
When you mean Kusal, right cricket, what do you mean exactly right cricket? I don't know, the correct cricket mean the training or what they mean?
Some aspect of training. So if you're a fast bowler, you're practicing the fast bowling. You might not be doing fast bowling. You might not be doing full speed. If you're a fast bowler, full speed, 24 balls straight, you might just be rolling your arm across. You might just be doing that.
The muscle memory.
Then you're getting the muscle memory. And then you continue to improve. If you look at tennis players like Federer, when you look at his physique, his left arm is pretty scrawny. The right arm, there's a little bit of muscle. But overall, he doesn't look as built as someone like Nadal. But he was actually, if you compare those two athletes, he was very successful. Why is that? Because he was just training the right way, training in that sport, making his body specific to that sport. And that's why even with young children, you don't stop doing what they love. You get them doing it, and then something will drop off. What's the sport? Hockey. So hockey, a lot of running, right? A lot of legs. So I'm very big on compression, because with lymphatic flow, you want to compress it, and there's medical grade compression, and that really helps. Massage. Anything according to this, if you evaluate every single athlete, you'll find what they might need. But then you apply that. You don't want to learn that during a tournament though. You want to work out what that athlete needs for recovery during the course of the season. Why is it 4 games in a day? Is it a major tournament? Or?
It's a 7-a-side tournament or
7-a-side, yes, I see. Yeah. So it's
sometimes 11-a-side tournament would have 2-3 matches.
So then you create the processes for recovery right through. Things like electrolytes. I tell some of my athletes, check your urine color. See if you're hydrated. Some of my athletes, they'll weigh themselves before they play, and they'll weigh themselves after. Whatever's missing is fluid. So you're just replenishing that. Depends on the athlete. If they try all this during training first, they say, oh yeah, I really like the cold. Yeah, then you build that in. But don't do that in a tournament. It's just like in a tournament, you don't want to experiment with the new type of nutritional aspect. These things you practice during the season. There are the basics, like even things like massage, things like wearing compression, doing the mindfulness, the breathing. Everything that I've shared with you, they can do as part of recovery. But getting them doing it and then hitting it all the time, that's where the value comes. Not just the one-off. So it creates better athletes who are dedicated, who are then going to change themselves. And then the performances improve.
Last three questions. We'll close the ball.
Just a question here.
Yes, but three.
Yeah,
My son is 8 years old and he does 5 sports
right.
and he trains on it every day. So am I doing it too much? Some days he has two different sports on the same day.
Yes.
Is it too much for him to handle? Because
Is he enjoying it?
he loves it.
It's fine. But is he hurting? Is he hurting at all? Is he got pain? Explain? No. How old? 8.
8 years.
That's fine.
Nothing to worry. I'm not overtraining him for it.
Kids will complain.
Yeah.
Kids will actually say, look, I can't do this, I'm hurting here. Listen to that, because some of the testing that we found, especially with this aspect here, we've got the nerve tests that we are conducting, which is a physical nerve test on the plinth. We can actually tell when a child is about to go on a growth spurt. It's when a child is about to go on a growth spurt, you have to provide a little bit more support, because the bones grow faster than the muscles and the supporting nerves. So that's where you get the aches and pains. Boys get the pain in the heel. Girls get the pain in the knee, and also that's with the size of the hips growing. So, and then girls also get headaches as well. But when things are happening that way, you want to focus on if the pain is there. Things that will offload that. Swimming is ideal. So cycling is another one. So offloading, but keeping them active is completely fine. The more they're active at that age, it's much better. The other recommendation I have is around year 11 and 12, don't pull them out of sport. Let them do more sport, because that increases blood flow to the brain. They will have better marks. Whereas in the subcontinent, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, around the ages of year 11 and 12, no, finish your sport, that's it, now you're going to study. It's the worst thing you can do, because you're stopping the blood flow, and it improves the blood flow to the brain. Also, pregnant mothers, when they exercise during pregnancy and do it safely, their children are 25% smarter. So that's some of the latest research. 2 more questions? Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of keeping moving. Now, there's times where it's been a very hard training session. I'm a big fan of keeping moving. Keep moving within tolerable levels. Although that is the time the pain starts, the problem has started a fair few steps before that. And that's usually very important to identify when your athlete is going from yellow down to red. A lot of times we might think that it's that complete rest that caused this, but it's not usually the case. But that is just the one aspect where they complained of it, and then it came out, but not often. But I'm a very big fan. As I said, keep moving. Gayat showed some movements, the human body, which is forward and back, turning, sideways. If you actually move in those 3 planes, it's a lot healthier. Some of these young athletes, when they're younger, as children, they move in all different planes. There's only 3, but they move in all 3. As we go into adulthood, we're only in one plane: computer, driving, getting in, out, steps. So it's just this forward. That can cause a lot more. Phone. UK Rugby have stopped using people or providing time periods on their phones, because they found The players are on their phone and their hand-eye coordination's down. So their physios have said, yep, just like children, 2 hours, that's it. You know? Because in about 5 years, we won't be spending time on phones like this. It'll, you know, we'll have different things where we don't have to actually look at something. Yep. It just depends on the athlete. It's very easy for me to say, look, legs are very important. But once again, is it sport specific? Once again, you know, if every athlete was Arnold, if every athlete had to be strong and had a physique, they would have to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Arnold Schwarzenegger can't run 100 meters. Same with the, you know, say you're talking about the cricketers and say they're doing a lot of running. That's just one aspect that they might not be doing right. I'd probably have to sit down and look at everything else according to this and say, oh, hang on a second, that running's fine, but something, maybe they're not doing something here that's important, or something here is not right. Something in the movement patterns is not right. It's very easy to say, oh, this is too much or too little, but there's so much more evaluation that goes into it. And unfortunately for us, we only see when things go wrong. One more question? Yes, young man.
What's the best way, let's say you have a match tomorrow, a cricket match for example.
Yes.
So what's the best way for a team to prepare the day before?
Good question. What do you think? So the question is, you've got a match tomorrow. What's the best way, and your cricket as well? Cricket and tennis. Okay, so you say the team is preparing for tomorrow. What do you think? After what I've explained, what do you think is the best way your team should do?
Usually I think the
Tapering. Good. What else?
usually that doesn't happen, like usually when we have a match,
Yes.
sometimes it tests the day, sometimes we have practices, but to get the best results, what's the best way?
I think if you've trained hard right through, the tapering is one of the best ways. Because if you've got a game tomorrow, you don't want to be going in stressed. You want to have a calm mind, calm body. Once again, you'll have to identify some of the concepts, work out what's best for you. There'll be things that are good for you. There'll be things that are good for, are you a batsman or bowler? Both. Bowler. Spinner? Off spinner. So you might have other spinners in the team, all right? And you guys might prepare in a different way. The all-rounders might have to prepare in a different way. And then a team has to come together and prepare in a different way. So this is sort of the recommendations that I've seen work really well. But you'll be able to find some of this that could really make a difference. Bilal, any more questions? Did you guys enjoy that? I really want to thank you all because you know, I really enjoy coming to Sri Lanka, sharing our latest in Australia, and now that COVID's over, I'll be coming a little bit more often. There'll be other things of technology, and I'll be bringing in other people that will then be able to help as well. One of the latest other tests is a DNA sports performance test, where you put a cheek swab, and then you do a cheek swab and you get a full list of, it's like a grocery list that is specific to you. That's vital. You get things like how to train for your own body. You can then look at mindfulness, how that is based on genetics as well. So these are some of the other experts that I'll be bringing across possibly over the next 6 to 12 months. But I want to thank you all for coming today. Appreciate your time. Thank you.